All right, let's get started. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Additions to the agenda, I have one regarding the POW MIA display. Mary Lynn will be here shortly to talk about that. If we can add that under new business, I guess, that would be great.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded to add the POW MIA display discussion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Do we have any other additions to the agenda?
No.
All right, seeing none. Chair's remarks, the only thing I have to say is that trash pickup and recycling this week will be September 7th, Friday, September 7th, instead of Thursday, September 6th. Triple T apologizes for the delay. Guess have a few open public comments, non-agenda items only. Seeing none. Department and committee reports, we don't have any. Approval of regular meeting minutes from August 21st.
I would like to add in maybe on the second page where it just refers to club, that it maybe add motorcycle club.
They said they
They
thought
did.
they said they weren't.
They specifically
Oh.
said that they are not a motorcycle club when
Oh.
they were
They didn't
here.
confirm.
Oh, okay.
Um,
All right, cancel that then.
so,
Otherwise, I move we accept the minutes.
Second.
As written.
okay. Moved and seconded to accept the meeting minutes of August 21st as written. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
I abstain.
Bills and warrants.
Okay, there is one question on one of the bills. The groundskeeping by house had the risk assessment taken off, and then the town gave it back to them.
Yes.
So,
Because they were contracted prior to our making a decision of how that was going to work,
okay.
we didn't feel it was fair for us to assess that to them without their prior knowledge.
Okay, so what about other contractors?
We only have one other one, and that's Kevin. The
His-
cleaning.
His has been he's been paying his assessment, half of his assessment.
He was here when the decision was made, sitting at the table with us.
But he already was under contract,
Right.
so that's why there's like a discrepancy here. If we're gonna wait until this takes effect when they sign another contract, so that we're not in breach of the contracts we've
Well,
arranged,
we
then-
didn't have a contract with House. They were just doing it because we didn't have a contract with anybody.
For the cemeteries?
No, I wasn't
Yes,
talking about the
right.
cemeteries, I was talking about the town
Well,
office part.
it's all, no, this is the cemetery part.
Okay. Then I'm
It was on the
lost.
cemetery bill. So it was like, the risk assessment was taken off, but it was added back in, so they got that money back. So basically, they got exactly what they billed us for. So the town is paying. Right.
So when did we change that going forward with them?
We are changing it going forward with everybody
Yeah, I know.
else, but not the current contracts. Because then I offered to everybody to renegotiate contracts if they wanted to.
Okay,
So did
So
Kevin
they-
renegotiate?
No,
So then he shouldn't be,
that's what I told him.
That he should not be paying his
Remove it.
risk.
Right. because we need to renegotiate contracts that are
To-
already in
right.
existence. But going forward, all the plowing coming up,
Right,
all of that,
right,
the shoveling
That's
is
new
going to be
contracts.
renegotiated.
right,
Because that's on a hiatus until the winter. But
Right.
what's going on right this minute, we're still paying, based on the contracts that we signed.
Okay.
so we need to make them the same. We've got two different things going on right now, that is kind of the.
And that's gonna happen until this has just started 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
So do we need a motion that Kevin does not pay the risk since he's under contract until the new contract? Or
If that's what you would like to do.
I would make that motion.
We
It's
offer
only
to
fair.
renegotiate because but if you wanna keep it going until the end of the contract, we can.
Until the end of the
When
contract.
is the end of the
you.
contract?
We've got a year and a half left on the contract.
That's not a good idea. But that's my opinion.
Well,
It's
so they're not,
discrimination.
they don't, I mean, I always have this issue with how can you do 3-year contracts when you have money for 1 year that we know of.
Well, we
You
have
know what I'm saying?
60 days to get out of the contract for any reason that we want to.
Okay.
So we're not bound into 3 years. We can get out of the contract
Mhm.
because obviously if we can't afford it or if things change at town meeting or whatever,
So
we have
could-
that option.
We could opt in that contract after 60 days and then renegotiate it and then just not charge him for that 60 days, is that? I'm just trying to
Yes.
understand what we're talking about here. 'cause
So
that-
let's do that then.
Okay. So I would make a motion that we use that 60 days to get out of that contract, to renegotiate and not charge him the risk assessment during that time.
I'll
Second.
second.
Is that for all current contracts?
How many is there?
We have shoveling, which we've got 60.
But that one has to be renegotiated anyway, right?
Not every year, no, we have a 3-year contract, but I was talking to JJ about this same issue. I mean, we could go through the formalities if you want of canceling the contract and renegotiating, we certainly could do that. But if we cancel the contract, technically, we should be going back out to bid.
Yeah, I thought this was taken care of when we made this
Yeah.
decision weeks ago.
Is he the only one that's paying that out of the other contracts?
That's the only one that's really been getting paid, because it's,
The other one that's getting paid right now is Kevin, he started actually paying it.
yeah, and other
And that
contractors.
that started after the decision
He
was
just
made?
started deducting it immediately from his.
Yeah, after the decision was made, since she's the
She
town
was-
treasurer and
she
that's her
was here.
husband, she started.
So if that's
doing
the
the
only
deduction.
one that,
And then letters went out to the other ones. And there were only 3 at the time. House, Kevin, and the shoveling are the only current contract, because they redo the plowing contracts each winter. So those weren't a problem.
so the only other one is the shoveling, but he's been notified.
Right, and I don't think we need to actually cancel the contract. I think that we can just renegotiate what
Right, so I'm gonna leave my motion as it stands
pay is for which contract.
for Kevin, because the letters have already gone out to everybody else, so.
Okay, and what about House, for the cemetery?
They're not paying any of this.
And they're kind of a difficult situation because we pay them a lump sum for each cemetery. 2 workers do have workman's comp, so the risk assessment wouldn't go on them, but they don't divide their bill up by hours. So I was talking to them, trying to figure out how to divide that bill up.
And when is their contract up?
That I'm not sure. I think that it was for 3 years, because we just renewed it for the cemetery mowing. We just renewed it a few months ago.
Yeah, it
And
wasn't
I
that
think-
long ago.
Yeah, I think that's a 3-year contract too.
I think we ought to check into that.
I think they would be easy to renegotiate too, because we're talking tiny money. Because when you take out their overhead and hourly for each employee, I think it's gonna be a small portion of their total bill. It won't be 10% of their entire bill. It's just that workman's comp per hours worked.
So
For
I would
one
amend
person.
that to include House everybody else has been notified by a letter, correct?
Yes.
So that would cover us to get out of those contracts and renegotiate after 60 days. And that takes the risk money away from both of those, correct? They wouldn't be paying for that 60-day time frame.
Right.
So then that's, I would add house into there.
But she just said that we can renegotiate house.
Right, but
Just like
it,
we can renegotiate JJ's, what she's saying is that Kevin has been asked to renegotiate. It hasn't happened yet, so we need to force it to happen so we can
Well, I haven't spoken to Kevin yet.
take
He was
this
just
the way it
paying
is.
it. I haven't spoken to Kevin personally.
Oh, okay.
So he needs to be asked to renegotiate then,
Yes,
Yes.
without doing a cancellation.
well,
Per
that's
se.
why I'm asking if you want to renegotiate, or do you want to go through canceling current contracts and going
No,
back out to
we
you?
just want to renegotiate everything
Renegotiate.
based on our decision from a few weeks ago, right?
correct, but if he's paying, we, in fairness, need to do something to stop him from paying
Well, that's
until we renegotiate.
The conversation that Michelle can have tomorrow and say, stop paying that and
Thank you.
till the renegotiation happens,
Okay.
because nobody else is paying it. So,
Yeah.
okay.
I've already done that.
You've already done that? Okay, that's what I'm getting at here, is we've had these conversations and it still hasn't happened yet. Which we can't fix, because we can't fix people if they don't want to do something. So, back to you. If he's not willing to not pay it, what do you want to do?
But you said you hadn't spoken to him and you needed to renegotiate.
I have not spoken to Kevin. I have spoken to JJ and I have spoken to House. And I believe that we can work out under our current contract without having to cancel and renew all that, to get the risk assessment paid based on the motion that the select board made.
The ones that haven't been paying it, yeah.
Right, and Kevin will know what, I stopped that. I didn't realize that she had already kicked that in.
Mhm.
Because we were sending letters out and, but her paying the bill, she did the right thing. She thought it was the right thing to just pay it, so she did.
Right,
Which it is, it was.
right. So basically, that's, he's renegotiated. He's paying it.
Essentially.
He's paying it. But the point was, there's other contractors that are not.
He's not paying it anymore because I told her not to do that anymore because everybody had gotten notified. Kevin didn't even get a letter yet and she stopped. She started paying it out
Okay.
of his check because she knew that it was coming.
Right.
Does that make sense? So I had nothing to do with that part. I was expecting to say, okay, as of this date, everybody's on a new, the risk assessment thing. All this stuff can't happen in the day, is my
No.
point. It takes a little time to notify people and
Right.
get people on the same page.
Right.
And we were in that
So,
process, but
he's not paying, so we can renegotiate and we don't need any motion. We can just move right along, correct? Awesome.
Yes.
Perfect.
technically you would need to withdraw your motion.
It's withdrawn.
Thank God. Okay, so the bills and warrants, we've already, did we go through them yet? Or
No.
did we just talk about this?
I still
bill?
get to talk some more. I move we authorize payment of the following warrants. 5T accounts payable, $9,306.47. 34S payroll, $10,585.76. And 35S payroll, $9,896.64.
Second.
Moved and seconded to accept the bills and warrants as read. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Windham Regional Commission appointment, Jim Pinkerton Jr. is wanting to fill that position.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to appoint Jim Pinkerton Jr. to the Windham Regional Commission. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay. Thank you, Jim. VLCT delegate designation. We need to nominate someone to do so if they so choose. Does anyone have any interest in doing that? Bueller? Bueller?
No.
Sandy. Sandy comes through at the last minute.
Well, because I read the whole thing.
Well, you've done it for years anyway,
Yeah.
so.
I know, I was like,
What does it entail,
I was gonna
actually?
do
So
this.
after a meeting, and then they take each
No.
section,
Yeah.
they say this is a section, and you have to call for a hold. And if you have a question on a section, they hold it, and then you get to listen to all that, and then you vote on whether or not to do the policy.
Oh, that doesn't sound like something I could handle. Thank you for doing it. All right. So I make a motion that we accept Sandy as the VLCT delegate.
Second.
That was quick.
Everybody at once.
Everybody seconds that one. Moved and seconded by everyone on the board
We have a
to
lot of
accept
confidence in you.
Sandy as the VLCT delegate. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? That was a formality to do that.
I think I beat it by a nose, though.
You did good, though. You did really good.
Be a little quicker.
So the Village Center Steering Committee nomination request from the Vernon Planning Commission. This is something that I would be willing to do unless someone else wants to do it.
I vote Josh. Serves my capacity.
Second.
Moved and seconded to nominate myself as the Village Center Steering Committee member for the VPC. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm gonna not say anything because it's me.
So that would be you abstaining.
Yes, ma'am.
Congratulations.
I'm so excited.
You do a great job.
I do a great job most of the time.
You will.
Yeah. Mary Lynn is not here, so, but I know what she wants. She wants to set up the POWMIA display that she typically sets up every year for the week. I think it's in a couple of weeks. It's not too far away. So if we can make a motion to that effect, we can allow her to do that.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to allow Mary Lynn to display the POWMIA display. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Very good. Budget schedule. Do we have notes for our department heads? Basically, last year, the last few years, we've given them some sort of direction on their budget, whether it be a 5% decrease, whether it be a, bring us what you can, whatever the case may be. Do we want to provide any direction this year as we have in years past? Or do we want them to take their best shot at it and then go through it with their direction?
I'd propose level funding,
Okay.
and they need a good reason if they're gonna do more than level funding.
Okay. I like that. Everybody happy with that? Just general consensus?
Yep.
That's our note to the board, or to the department heads? Level funded budget? And reasons why if they can. Okay, that was easy.
The schedule.
What's that?
We start after the next meeting, right?
Yes, we start on the
That's-
19th is the first budget meeting, so directly following our 18th select board meeting.
Did you get my email?
So Vernon Historian's insurance discussion and lease. If you guys want to come on up, you are more than welcome to. You guys had a special meeting a couple weeks ago to discuss the lease a week ago.
A week, it'll be a week ago.
Okay. And I know what happened there, can you
We,
let the rest of the board know?
I proposed to the board, some revisions to the proposed lease and some additions. There was, concern because there wasn't an understanding of the language in the lease still. So it raised concern. So the majority favored seeking legal advice to understand it. And which we plan on doing, and we are meeting again on the 21st.
And the 21st is just your regular meeting,
No.
or is that what's a special meeting?
Yes,
for
that
you?
wasn't due to vacations and such. That was the earliest we could seem to get it together,
Okay.
so.
Alright. Here's my concern with this is because we've kind of had the same conversation 2 or 3 different times that people don't understand, and, you know, we want to seek this, we want to seek that, and nothing really seems to be going forward. And I understand that you guys are a volunteer board. We deal with a lot of volunteer boards, so it's kind of hard to get everybody together and get on the same page. At the same time, we continue to get pressure from the insurance company to get this done, to the point of, you know, your rates are gonna increase and because you're a higher risk and liability. So, how long have we been doing this? When did the lease first go out? 2 months?
At
Yeah, it was-
least
yeah.
2 months.
June or July.
They responded on June 24th. The agreement, the first lease that we gave was the 1st of June.
Okay. So, it's been a long process already with little result thus far. And I know it's my opinion, and I told you in email today, and I've told a few other members of the historians that it's my opinion that we should no longer allow public access to the building until the lease gets solved. So,
Can I speak?
sure.
Just to reflect some of the discussion at our meeting, I think that it's being said that we just don't want to sign it, and that's really not the case. There are things that really don't feel comfortable for us, for future historians. The historians are doing this as a service to the town. It was back in the 70s that they were sort of designated to take charge of caring for the history of the town and collecting and whatever artifacts. And so that's what they've tried to do. I'm fairly new at this, relatively speaking, but I think that this lease, we did an understanding waiver. We got the insurance back in June and turned it in on June 18th. We had a meeting and we said, that's great, sign it. It's relieving you of all liability, and we thought that was good. But this lease agreement, there are things that really didn't feel appropriate. Can I mention what some of them are so that you do understand why we were wanting to find out what the implications would be for future people? Because words can matter.
That's
you know?
fine, and we've done this a handful of different times, and I'm happy to do it again, but I
You've
will
gone
tell you,
through
we've
and-
done this, yeah, I've heard the concerns from the lease already. I don't know if everybody on the board has, but I have at least 3 different times now. And like I said, I'm happy to do it again with you.
Well, do you
and
not think that any of those concerns are valid?
I don't,
You don't?
no.
Okay.
Because I know one of the major concerns is the upkeep of the building. And there is no person in their right mind that's gonna let a building that we own fall apart around your organization or around the town itself. So that concern just baffles me, for one.
But that's, I understand that, and then it makes me wonder why it would be put in writing that you wouldn't be responsible. I mean, it just sounds like
That's not what that says. Basically, what it boils down to is if you guys all of a sudden decide that you want a bathroom as our tenant, because now you have a lease and you're technically a tenant for $1 a year, and you come to the town and say, we want a bathroom in the building, we can tell you no. We're not putting a bathroom in the building. That's basically what that section boils down to.
The section, the change of condition of building and improvements, that's what that means, adding anything? Okay, and what does this mean? If any claim, suit, or action of damages, any nature whatsoever, relating to the tenant's use of the premises is brought against the landlord for any accident or injury, the tenant agrees to defend the landlord and the tenant at the tenant's own expense, cost and expense, against any and all claims, suits and actions, and to satisfy and discharge any damages that may be brought against the landlord.
So,
If we're the tenants,
Yep.
how can we possibly defend the town?
this is where the conversation that we had with Heather came in a couple of weeks ago or a month ago or whatever the case may be. I forget last time that you were here. You've been here a handful of different times about this. But because the historians have nothing, you don't have a bank account
Right.
really to speak of. You don't have property, you don't have anything. That basically puts the liability for any suit. So if Chris walks in and slips and falls because of some particular reason, we want Chris to sue you and not the town, because you have nothing for him to get. But as the landlord, we have a lot for him to get.
Right.
So, and that's why this lease is important, and that's why our insurance company wants this lease, and you guys have received that, directly from our insurance company, that this needs to happen, is because it removes the liability from the town who they're insuring and puts it on you as a nonprofit organization that has nothing for him to gain if he does get hurt. So you really have nothing to lose. We have everything to lose. So this lease puts that ball in your court.
So this would be our insurance company, the liability insurance that we have would have to pay to defend the town? Is that what this is saying?
Go ahead.
I actually have a really good example of what this is doing. A real
Go for it.
time example. So say you open the museum. Now this relates to your use of the property. So if someone comes to the property and a shingle falls off the roof, that's going to be on the town, because that's that is not your use of the property. Your use of the property would be if you're having an event and say someone climbs on the carriage and someone falls off the carriage and breaks a leg and sues. Right now they have the town to go to. That was your use of the property that resulted in that injury. This is saying that if someone comes to the town, you're going to step in and defend the town and say, no, that was because we had an event going on, they climbed on our equipment, they fell, it's our fault. That's what this is saying. Does that make sense?
So our insurance company would defend the town?
You're right.
Okay.
So that's because it's a direct result of your use of that property. Not our maintenance of the property, it's because you opened it up for an event and people were there, and because of your use of the property, that injury happened. That's what that means. Does that make sense? And that's something that would be the same if someone was in, like, if I rented an apartment and someone came to my apartment and fell off the couch, I'd be responsible, not the landlord. But
I can't imagine, given what I've seen of the ridiculous nature of litigation, that they wouldn't go after the landlord too, but.
And they
hope,
would,
I
and our
guess.
insurance company is saying that this document is
Means
giving
that
the
our
town an
insurance would have
added, this is added protection. I mean, they can go after anybody, they can go after the company that
Right.
made the carriage.
Right.
But this is added protection for the town.
They can go after you because you were standing next to the carriage.
I know,
Right.
it's
You know what?
ridiculous.
So,
But the thing is that these are layers of protection against something like that happening. And that's the reason that they want it. It's a reduction in liability. I guess this is my frustration with the historians at this point, is that we've had this conversation with Heather. I've had it with other conversations with other historians between June and now into September. And doesn't sound like anybody's communicating all together, or that there is some kind of other issue outside of the lease that is keeping it from being signed. Because the lease has been explained several different ways, several different times, to several different people, and the concerns have been, laid out just like you have, and we've, talked about those concerns, and now you're shaking your head because now you understand what we're doing. But my frustration is we've done this with 5 or 6 different people now. And there's still no movement going forward in June, July, August. We're going on our 4th month of dealing with this.
Yeah,
And it's been
I
on my
understand your
agenda a while.
frustration. I understand,
So-
and it's a little thing in the big scheme
Oh, it
of
is,
things,
but unfortunately, it shows up on my agenda every 2 weeks, so it becomes a bigger and bigger issue, and then I have the insurance company getting a hold of Michelle saying, we're just gonna have to raise your rates because this isn't happening, it's been 4 months.
But it's a
And-
big change to the relationship of the town and the historians. It's a
But-
big change.
But with Josh saying
has-
that it's been on the agenda for quite a while, there's been how many weeks that it's been on there, and there's been nobody here to represent you
Yeah, well, I
to ask
thought
these
we had
questions and to get
resolved
this.
it when we signed the other thing for a while. I thought that we were good,
No, there's
that
two
we had
different
gotten the
pieces to it.
insurance and we'd gotten a waiver and we thought we were,
But
We
then
were good,
you came
but then-
back and said, no, we needed to have a lease.
yes.
And so, yes, so I think it's taken time to digest.
And we don't meet that often. It's hard. We can't even find another time to meet till September 21st.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, but
Yeah, I
everybody's busy.
understand that, and as I said, I understand that you work with a volunteer board, and, and I'm on several volunteer boards in town too, and I know how hard it is to get everybody together to do something, but this is very important, and it's something that if I was on a board, that I would be on this to get it done, especially when it comes to, and I have said on a couple of different occasions that if this doesn't get done, you'll just have to close to the public till it gets done. I've said it a handful of times, and I wasn't kidding when I said it, because it's coming to a point where it's gonna cost taxpayers additional dollars to not have this simple piece of, well, in my mind, a simple piece of paper signed that doesn't really change the relationship with the town and the historians, because we still fund everything. The lease is $1. There's no change in, much of anything, with the exception of this piece of paper that it just exists for the well-being of an insurance company. So,
That was another thing. We thought that it was optional, and that's why we thought that agreement, was going to suffice for a while. That it wasn't, that we weren't being told we had to have a lease. But, and the other question that came up at our meeting, that maybe you've explained it many times, but
Sure.
just so I'm clear and I can help promote it or whatever, is 8 and 9 about the money. And if we default, or if we go bankrupt, or what's gonna happen, it just feels like,
are you talking about the $1?
yeah, it just seems so silly. Why are we putting
If you
this
can't,
in
if you
here?
can't pay us the $1, you call me, and I will bring
But
$1
why do you
personally
put
down
things
to
in
the
a
town
lease
office
that
for
are
you.
But-
totally irrelevant?
But if we don't have the insurance, that's a default on the loan. I said that at our meeting, that's one of the defaults. If we don't have insurance, we have defaulted on our loan.
But this is about the money, the rent.
Okay, this is,
And-
okay.
And if we file for bankruptcy,
But you're not ever gonna file for bankruptcy because you're funded by the town.
okay, well, this was a
and-
problem, because people think, why are we putting things in here that are totally unrelated or it's adversarial. And we're not adversaries, we're working together,
Yeah.
supposed
Do
to
you
be.
want me to check with our attorney and see if we can take that out?
It's not that important one way or the other, to be honest.
This was given to the historians as, if you like this, let us know, please come.
Absolutely.
I've never heard anything that you wanted to change. More than happy to go back to our attorney and ask if there's any problem with removing that.
I thought that this had been brought up before, but
Nobody has ever
That particular
suggested
bullet
any
point has
changes.
never been brought up, and we have never received any changes or revisions to, suggested changes or revisions to the lease as of yet.
Well, I would suggest that it would be helpful. I think there were people that felt like this was totally not applicable in our situation. Number 8 and number 9. That might really just, and it
Yeah,
has
but-
to be called a lease, not an agreement. Am I right? It has to
Correct.
be called a lease, okay,
Correct.
because that
But
was another
the
issue.
other piece to this is as Michelle mentioned, that we kind of need everything all at once, because hearing you say 8 and 9, and you go back to your board, now they don't like 2 and 3, and now somebody else wants to revise 5 and 6, and we're, contacting our lawyer to make these changes. I want all of this together in a package that I can hand to the town attorney, or Michelle can hand to the town attorney and say, here are the changes that the historians want to make. And that's what I was hoping would result from your last special meeting, was all of those changes would be brought to Michelle
Well,
so we could
we
just get
probably
it
should have
done.
just gone and talked to Michelle after the meeting and told her what some of these questions were, but I don't know if she had the authority or whatever, but these are questions that came up at our meeting.
Sure.
And one other one, the term of the lease shall be 1 year. Can we make it 5 or 10 so we don't have to go through this? I mean, does it have to be a 1-year
Yeah.
lease agreement?
No, it doesn't have to be one. Absolutely not. You guys had such concern about it, I didn't want to stretch it out to 10 years and,
Well,
Well-
that was another thing that I think people, it was mentioned.
for as long as you can.
Yeah.
I think
How long do you want it, 5 or 10?
Before another board wants to check.
Right,
10.
yeah, about 10. I think 10 years left.
so outside of 8 and 9 and the term of the lease, is there anything else that you guys want to change?
Yes,
or
and I hadn't had
amend?
a chance to contact Michelle because the end of last week got busy and then boom,
Sure.
it's.
So let's get it done now.
So, on the property known as the South School Building, how about, known as South School Building, and how about South School Property? Because there's the annex and we also use the grounds. Because that's just, says South School
building.
Building.
That's fine. That puts even more liability on you, but that's
I
fine.
know, but.
I'm just telling you.
Somebody gets hurt in the building and drag them out onto the lawn.
Yeah.
Well,
Then you
there-
say, not our problem,
Well,
but,
South School, well, there's the annex too.
yes.
And that I was like, well, okay.
Yep, I agree.
Where's my notes? To add, oh dear. To add, let's see, maybe they're in my notebook. Add landlord responsible maintenance and repair of structural buildings and property to keep in good order and condition. That was in,
Where was that?
it's
Number?
not in there.
Oh,
That was in, some of the other examples. Because there's such a concern over number 2, to put that in there to,
Sure.
just to say, let me see, increase the time, that's done. And to add, electric, that you pay the electric.
Okay. We do that anyway, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Now you do, no.
No, I knew we did. I was being kind of facetious, actually.
that would go with number 7, probably, because that's about providing electric.
So those were some. Was there any other? Let me see, we did this.
So you had mentioned seeking legal advice on that. If the attorney says that all of these changes are okay and we present that to you, is it gonna be signed at the next meeting, or are we gonna have to revisit this?
Well, I think that this whole financial thing and defaults and bankruptcy, someone wanted to run that by them, and make sure that we weren't opening a can of worms for, our liability in the future, defending you and, whatever.
Yes,
But-
that's exactly what we're asking you to do.
Yeah.
So it sounds
I
like
think-
even if we take this to the town's attorney, we're
No,
still.
we were gonna take it to there's someone that does legal work for nonprofits, that we were just gonna run it by and just say, is this okay? Are we being good stewards of this organization by signing this for a very minimal charge? They didn't charge much for a nonprofit, for an hour. That's what was suggested at our meeting, just to make sure that this,
Was that expenditure approved by your
Okay.
trustees and
Yes, it was
move forward?
approved.
Okay. So has that happened yet? Has it been sent to
We
whomever
haven't.
it's gonna
It
be?
was, we just had the meeting last
she was
week.
going to share some of the changes, but then we heard that we were on the agenda for tonight, so we,
Okay.
we were gonna see if we could get these changes and then.
So our attorney is way more expensive than yours is?
Yes,
So if you could send him the draft as is, without us going through the hassle of going through our attorney and making all the changes, and then sending that to your attorney and him finding something he doesn't like, and then we go back to my attorney again, or the town's attorney again, to make sure that he's happy with the new changes, it'd be really great if we could just get a version to your attorney to make sure that he's happy, so you don't go back and forth with the town attorney that charges us not nonprofit rate, to look at it. So if you can, even if you want to mark up the current lease that we have with the changes that they suggested, and when you email it to Heather, say this has not been approved by the town's attorney, but is what we discussed at select board meeting, and then you guys can send it off to your attorney, make sure that he's happy with it, and then send it back to us for us to get it approved by the town attorney. That would be great.
How
So we're
late
not
into the
going-
season do you guys?
keep it open?
They're almost done.
September 30th is their last
So-
Sunday.
Yeah,
So 6 days after your next meeting.
yeah.
Um,
My biggest concern right now is not necessarily being your open Sundays. My biggest concern right now is your end of year 50th celebration. Because I know, because this is how these things work, is when you start talking about somebody getting hurt and suing you and liability, is
somebody's
exactly
gonna
when it
get hurt.
happens.
Yeah, I know.
And
That's what I'm afraid of.
so I really, really, really want to get this thing signed before your end of year 50th anniversary celebration, really, really badly.
The other thing that was mentioned at our meeting was there was a sample from Stowe that was just an agreement,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what they signed with their historians.
Yep.
And so that was the other thing was suggested, that we run by the attorney and run by you. Does it have to say lease, or can it say,
According to our insurance
Agreed.
company, yes.
so your insurance company says it has to say it's lease, okay?
And when is the 50th anniversary?
It's 30th of September.
So I would
We
think
were
that by our next
going to-
meeting that their attorney could have
Yes.
given us the information, and then we would know whether that should be happening or not.
Yes. That's kind of where I'm at with it as well.
By your next meeting, well, you said you're meeting on the 21st?
Right, but to get the feedback from their attorney, we should be able to have that by our next
So
meeting.
you don't have to meet on the 21st and
When
then
is
send
your
to your
next
attorney?
meeting?
The
The
19th,
18th.
18th?
What we're saying is that when she gets you your draft back to the attorney, please get it to your attorney ASAP.
ASP.
And then get it right back to us. I don't care whether you guys met on the 21st yet or not. If we can get it back by prior to our next select board meeting, with your changes, and we can get your changes approved by our attorney, and then we can approve all the changes at our meeting on the 18th or 19th, whenever it is, and then you guys can sign it on the 21st, and there's no more back and forth, then your 50th celebration is good to go, and we don't have an issue.
And if it's not,
Then we have a problem.
we're not having our 50th.
You can do it at the church,
Yeah, we could.
but
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I'm sorry.
No,
this is- But it's,
it's totally fine, and I understand the concerns that are out there, but we've been doing this for a long time, so we just really need to put it to bed. We good?
Good.
so you're going to make changes and you'll notify her as soon as you've made changes?
Yes, I will actually call you when I email you.
Thank you,
I know
'cause
that my
I'll-
email hits in your junk somehow.
I don't know why. I keep saying no.
Can we
and I-
have that to them tomorrow, because there's really not that much to be changed. So you will have it tomorrow to get
Okay.
to whoever your attorney is to look at it. That way he's got a little bit of time before our next meeting to.
Would
throw
you like
his
me to
2
just
cents
stop
in.
in and pick it up?
Your attorney's probably gonna want to email,
Oh, okay.
I would assume.
Okay, yep.
I would ask the board for permission to contact our attorney just to touch base about those big number 8 and 9s, because they're significant changes, so rather than going back and forth. I think all of the other things will be fine, but that's a significant one. That might just be a quick phone call,
I think that's okay.
and that might speed things along.
Okay.
Okay, so yes, email. Email, let me know that you've emailed, please.
We'll touch base tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Noise ordinance.
Oh, I didn't get one.
Where'd they all go?
More copies?
Oh, here we are. Would you like a marked up copy or?
Doesn't matter to me. Whatever we discuss them.
Anybody need a copy of it?
We didn't change any of the.
I haven't changed,
Change anything.
I didn't get any changes from anybody, so let's see.
Yep.
No, but if it just,
I will make a copy of it, please. Anybody else?
Is it the same as last?
Yes,
2
it's
weeks ago?
the same.
Oh, I already got my copy. Taking excessive notes on my copy.
I see that. You were very diligent with your homework.
Oh, yeah, I did half my homework until the dog ate it.
Give him a gold star, please, Chair.
If I don't, sorry, give you one, Jeff. Here. So for a silver paper clip.
Oh, nice, thank you.
All right,
Display it proudly.
you should. So, everybody had a little bit of homework to do based on the sections that you were assigned. No changes were sent to Heather, or, oh my God,
No, I did
to
not.
Michelle for the noise ordinance. I'll be okay. I promise I'll be all right. For the noise ordinance, so I'm assuming everybody loves their section that they had, and that we don't want to make any changes at all to the sections that you had. Yes, no?
No, that's not true.
That's not the case? Okay.
That's not true.
So let's,
remind me of the sections they had.
I do know what sections I had, but
Just
you
in
want
case you need
assignment sheet?
reminding of what section you had.
I don't know who would be in that.
Two questions.
Oh, I forgot about that one.
See? What's wrong with you?
Take that silver
Yep,
cup back.
where is it?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's back.
I just lost it.
Yep, here.
Damn.
So was
You
it
can
changed
get a
to
green
10
one now.
p.m.?
That was a consensus I got at the last meeting. People wanted it at 10 because that's what the dog ordinance says. For dogs.
That's my section.
So,
Yes, that's your section.
My
Well, I
second.
just noticed it wasn't on the clean
Oh,
I'm
copy.
gonna say
you're
10.
Good to go.
Good job, Jeff.
10 to 6, though. I'd propose deleting or cats. What?
I'm not even gonna allow you to speak if you're gonna do this.
I like cats. I don't think they make excessive noise.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
It's crazy.
That's a judgment.
Well,
I know some cats that make excessive noise.
Yeah, they certainly don't have owners, though.
Well,
Feral cats.
That's right. It says from 10 to 6 or 10 to
Okay,
7.
Okay,
whatever.
were you serious about the 6 AM?
Yeah.
Okay.
Am I changing that to 6?
You can't tell I was serious.
I can't, no,
Look at his shirt, he's very serious.
it's dead serious.
beginning at 6 AM.
I'm okay with that.
that means the weekends too.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a way that we put Friday and Saturday as
I mean,
11.
that's 6 AM, people might like to maybe
Yeah,
have a
we can
little
do
more
that.
peace beyond 6 AM on the weekends.
I don't disagree.
So let's not make this super complicated and make it Saturday and Sunday are 11 to 7, and because you have to remember that somebody has to enforce this.
They may not know what
Maybe
day
at
of the
some
week it
point.
is.
Well, honestly, if you're a sheriff's deputy or a VSP officer and I call you on Saturday, do you really think you're gonna have the Vernon town noise ordinance memorized to say, oh, it's Saturday?
Oh, it's Saturday.
They have
Cut
until
them some
7.
slack. They got another hour.
They have until 7.
Yeah.
I think that's a little, I think that's a little much to ask.
Oh, no, I wasn't saying add in a weekend qualifier, I'm
No,
just
they were.
saying that, you know,
Yeah.
blanket across here to cover all the days, yeah.
Yeah. So are we happy with 10 to 6, Monday through Sunday?
If you want 7, I don't care.
I think 7 is
Okay. I agree.
more reasonable.
You and I are gonna go rounds before this night's over, I have a feeling.
Who? You and me?
No. This one.
Right.
My money's on Gene, by the way.
You're not gonna like the rest of it.
So 10 to 7, everybody's happy?
Yes.
Okay, so Chris and I did section 4.
No, so, whoa. What about cats?
Not doing this. Section 4.
Why did I even bother to do this?
I don't know. Why did you?
I don't know. I'm not gonna do my next one either.
We'll leave all animals in there. Is everybody okay with leaving cats? Because I don't think it's really important.
These cows aren't in there.
Yeah, I mean, I could put cows in there if you
No,
want.
no.
No, that's,
I quit first.
that's a necessity.
Just leave your
They
keys.
don't make excessive noise.
I'll grab my phone.
All right. So Chris and I did daytime noise. We want to eliminate that entire section.
Okay, that just kind of destroys the next section.
And this is just what we want to do. This is obviously up to the board, up for discussion. You guys, this was our section to decide on, and
To destroy?
we didn't destroy it. We just eliminated it.
Well, I guess what we've heard from people in town has been concern over daytime noise and that they just don't have any peace on a Sunday or, you know.
But one of those was dogs, which there's already an ordinance in effect for that. The other one is, I mean, I just have a hard time telling people that pay taxes in this town that they can't do something on their property. Just, I mean, yes, there should be a level of respect, but putting
Right.
into a piece of paper, respect your neighbor doesn't automatically mean that that's going to happen. And now when your neighbor, when there's a neighbor dispute and they don't wanna listen to you mowing the lawn, I just see a whole lot of call-outs to the police for absolutely nothing. Yes, the guns is one thing, but now you can, because there's a noise ordinance, you can call the police and say whatever you want.
Well, I think that, you know, in the purpose section, when you're talking about unnecessary, unreasonable, we all know lawns have to be mowed, we all know that wood has to be cut.
Right, but we
Those are
went
kind of-
from a 4-hour complaint of guns going off to
Mm-hmm.
then his most recent one was 30 minutes. So how do we tell everybody what is acceptable and what isn't? I mean, that's my problem with that whole section. Is there is a lot of room for interpretation there, and you're essentially restricting what your neighbors can and can't do.
The other piece to it too, where, you know, I understand that the daytime noises when, you know, we've been getting the majority of the complaints. I also understand that, you know, as Chris said, one was a dog, one was somebody from out of town that was there to visit for the day. Actually, two of the issues were somebody that was out of town to visit for the day. So now we're putting an unnecessary, in my opinion, an unnecessary restriction on our residents, because it's not our residents that are causing the issue. It was, except for in one occasion that we heard about. And two, as I mentioned in previous meetings, with this in here, it'll never pass a town meeting. And I'd rather have, I would rather have something at the end of this than have nothing.
But if you're taking out section 4, then why don't you just say, we're gonna go with, let's see, Title 13, 1022. A person who between the sunset and sunrise.
The state
disturbs-
statute.
Yeah, why don't we just say, our ordinance is a state statute?
That's what I suggested to begin
Well, that
with.
was the start of this.
But if we do the state, I mean, I don't think we need all of this. We could say that there's a noise ordinance from 10 to 7. That's it.
Exactly.
If we go with that, though, when it's dark at 5 o'clock in January,
You probably shouldn't be shooting your gun.
well, I'm talking more about snowmobiles and things
Oh,
like that.
That's
Yeah.
true.
So I think, and I support a noise ordinance, I just think that this is exceptionally large to try and pass over on the town, which we already know doesn't really respond well to a lot of ordinances.
Just bothers me that we're trying to legislate.
Respect. I know.
Well, yeah, well, if it comes to that, you know, then if people don't have it, then you have to.
And that's what, and that's why, you know, when Chris and I talked about the daytime, and we broke into your section too a little bit,
Obviously, yeah.
just to just to talk about it. It's, you know, those loud cats, they're gonna get it. And so I think having the noise ordinance saying 10 to 7 to Chris's point is a great idea. I like the state statute. That's what I brought to you guys the very first night that we started talking about this.
Right.
But we also talked about, as Chris just mentioned, that when it gets dark at 5 o'clock at night and, you know, I want to ride my snowmobile, which I don't have one because I don't go outside in the winter because it's horrible. But then, you know, Sandy wants to call me because I'm outside her door going past on the trails or whatever the case may be, then, you know, that allows, it allows a lot of call outs to the police that don't need to happen. And so I think having it set as 10 to 7, as we all have already agreed, is a good idea. So maybe taking, you know, that state statute and putting in our times that we've agreed on is the way to go. Instead of having this fairly significant thing that,
Well, you know, I think the difference, like under the way the daytime noise thing is now, it talks about unnecessary over a long period of time. So a snowmobile passing through, unless they stay in your yard and just keep going around your house,
I had one do that when I first moved out here.
well, then you're justified to
Right,
take
but
care of that.
if we get into that,
He didn't
we
come
don't
back.
actually break it down and say, this is what an extended period of time is, then it's open for interpretation
Yeah.
to each individual
An
resident, which is
extended period of
going.
time is 2 hours, an extended period of time is 4 hours.
When
and
you're trying to put
you know,
baby to sleep, it's 2 minutes.
Exactly.
And that's why I was bringing up the point with Mr. Kelly, where he said it was 4 hours in the original letter that we got. And then when he sat here with us, he said that the most recent one was 30 to 45 minutes. So which one of those timeframes is acceptable and which one isn't?
Yeah.
And if we don't specifically spell that out, then I just see an awful lot of calls going to VSP or to the sheriff's department, which are probably gonna go unanswered for something like that during daytime hours.
Well, I think too, for him, the issue was that it was like every weekend, you know? It was the same behavior every weekend, so you're basically not getting a peaceful Sunday. You know, so that's kind of excessive and,
Summer's so short here, I don't know, I have a hard time with it. Yeah, yes, there needs to be respect for your neighbors, and I'm not disputing that. I just, if this isn't clearly spelled out, there's going to be a lot of confusion about it, and I don't think that the town's gonna go for it. If we say, hey, you guys gotta be quiet from 10 to 7, I think that's our chance of getting the town to agree that yes, we will accept this noise ordinance. Otherwise, I don't think that it's gonna pass.
And I agree with him, and the only reason I agree with him is based on history with the
Junk ordinance.
junk ordinance. And we didn't hear really any dispute about the junk ordinance itself. The constant thing during that town meeting was, I'm gonna do whatever I want on my own land. I'm gonna do whatever I want on my own land. I'm gonna do whatever I want on my own land. Every person that stood up started their conversation with, this is my land, I'm gonna do whatever I want. And the same conversation is gonna happen with this. And I don't blame anybody for thinking that, because they do own the land, they do pay taxes. Legislating respect is something that sometimes has to be done. In this case, I think we need to take baby steps into that. And I think having the restriction of 10 to 7 is a very good baby step into doing that. And if it needs to be revised going forward based on, you know, behavior, then we do it. I don't think we jump in with both feet right now and try to get a fairly substantial, because this is noise ordinance passed at town meeting, when we all know that the response is gonna be, I'm gonna do what I want with my own land, regardless if you're a problem or not. Because there was a ton of people that stood up at town meeting against the junk ordinance that don't have stuff in their yard. They just don't want me to tell them that they can't have junk in their yard.
I think the other problem that faces us with this is that we don't have zoning, which that limits the VY property, that puts a lot of restrictions in place if we have noise ordinances, and we don't know what could possibly be over here.
Yeah. Because that's the other thing within this daytime policy too that Chris and I spoke about, is we have potentially a deconstruction company that's gonna start tearing that building apart, probably not gonna be terribly quiet. So when the folks on Governor Hunt Road get tired of hearing jackhammers and excavators, they can come to you, Gene, and say, this right here, and it says it's excessive noise and I don't wanna hear it anymore. So what do I do? What do we do as a select board now that we have this problem to deal with? And now we have to put exemptions for, you know, commercial deconstruction and anything. I mean, it becomes a quagmire of nonsense.
Can I just make a comment?
Yeah.
I think that gunfire is a little different than just noise bothering people, because you don't know what they're shooting at, and it can affect neighbors. You know, I heard about a lot of gunfire up on Huckle Hill one weekend, and I think several people living nearby, it made them very uneasy, not knowing there's no gravel pit, you know, what are they shooting at?
Yeah, and we heard about that same story from Mr. Kelly. Yeah.
It's happened at our house with people going down to the public landing and just shooting guns. And we don't know what there's no hunting season, we don't know what they're shooting at. And, you know, it can carry. And one time, my son heard it hit the Jeep in the yard, and he went right over there, said, "What are you shooting at?" And they were shooting at birds. Actually, a police officer came, and they had to call them in from the water, but they were just shooting birds. But it makes you nervous when people are shooting guns.
Yeah.
And where there've been times at night when it's dark that they're over there at that landing shooting guns. And what can they be shooting at in the dark? And it makes you very uneasy to live nearby and think they're shooting. So I think that, you know, Jean's comment about it can, some way, there must be a way to make it valid to be able to complain about something like that, or to be able to have some. When they were shooting at night, the police officer came and I said, "Do you hear them?" And he said, "Yes, I hear them." But he didn't go over and say anything or do anything, and it was dark, and they're
that's the
shooting
same problem
guns.
we're gonna have
But
with
he had
enforcement
no authority, probably, I don't know.
He did, because.
He
what
did with the
state
state statute.
He did?
He did, with state
Absolutely.
statute. It was
Well-
between
But-
sunrise and sunset.
But again, it's one of those things where an
Sunset
officer
sunrise.
has to put priority in what he's doing that evening, and is going over and telling somebody to stop shooting the priority over something else that, you know, he gets called out on.
Well, he was
That's,
sitting there
that's the
by a
decision,
house
so.
listening to it,
yeah,
and
so.
he didn't want to confront him, I guess, but
Yeah,
anyway,
and
I think
I'm
it's
sure
a
there's that,
concern.
I'm sure there's
Gunshots
that element
is-
as well. But yeah, the state statute says basically dark. As soon as it gets dark, you gotta stop being obnoxious.
I mean, I don't
So-
mind noise if it's a firecracker or something, but when it's a gun and you don't know which
Yeah.
way they're shooting,
But
it's
but
not
then you go
good.
down the aisle of gun control and not necessarily noise ordinance. It becomes a completely different animal. So, and that is an animal that I am not going to get on and ride at any time soon. Personally, but. So what are we thinking?
What, on daytime?
On anything?
Any of it?
On
I
any
had
of it.
exceptions, and I said, wipe them out, because you're never gonna pick every situation and have it listed there.
I agree.
Take it all out, because I thought that things were defined above in some of the other sections.
Okay.
You know, I mean, I think, you know, construction noise is kind of a necessary thing,
Right.
as opposed to,
Cats.
you know, as opposed to cats. You know, I mean, just like the town doing work on a road, or, you can't call them out on that. You know, that's,
Well, so you want to include, these are exemptions, so they're saying if the town is plowing the road at 5 AM, they're allowed to make noise. If they're plowing the parking lot of the town hall, they can be here for an extended period of time at any time.
Right, but
Yeah.
noise created through snow removal, I could snow blow my driveway at 3 because I have to be to work at 4.
Exactly.
And that has to be acceptable? I mean,
And that's an exemption right now, but you're saying to get rid of that exemption? You're saying don't allow snow removal?
no, I'm saying
all
you
out.
can't list every situation that's allowed.
Oh, okay.
You can't list
So-
every you're never gonna hit on every
I-
situation, but
in
to
the-
me, if it's like snow removal is a necessary thing, people have to get to work, whatever, it's, you know, it's the partying that's maybe weekend after weekend after weekend, and
So would you make just the exemptions one definition of necessary?
no exemptions.
I'm confused. If there's no
Because-
exemptions, then that means snow plowing would not be allowed until
Because that's
7 AM.
No,
necessary.
it's a
under number two.
necessary thing.
But then that needs to.
No,
if you're
you're
looking up at
overthinking
number
it.
2.
Like,
Look up at number 2, in
Yeah.
consideration of neighbors in order to protect comfort, quiet, blah, 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 blah. Appropriate regulate a person or persons from making a continuous unnecessary
Necessary
or
or
unreasonable
unreasonable.
loud
oh,
noise.
okay.
So snow removal is a necessary.
You know, like I said,
Thing.
that,
Okay.
cutting your wood, mowing your lawn, those are necessary
So
activities.
technically, you just have 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
Correct. So if you get rid of that, okay.
We're never gonna cover everything in that.
Well, I mean, you know, obviously you can't legislate and enforce common sense or, as we said, respect, so
So,
you don't even want to try.
all right, so we're good with 1, 2, and 3. We are eliminating 4 and 5 at this point. Okay, Jeff,
6.
you had
That one, too.
6. Can we throw cats in there somewhere? Okay.
You leave them alone.
Okay.
I'd just delete the whole section now.
Okay, I agree. So I would keep, the penalty section was mine, I would keep that.
So we're getting rid of 6.
Yep.
Yeah, 'cause
So-
we're specific.
The penalty section is, I believe, should stay. So there's some kind of recourse to the problems. So that becomes section 4. And who did 8 and 9? Did we
8 and
do-
9 is boilerplate,
Okay.
legal stuff.
So that, those can stay. Enforcement was Jean.
Yeah, but all the, if you read under note, somebody else took on all those things, so I did not really act on number 10.
Yep. But 10 is kind of boilerplate as well.
Note is the stuff that I did, that when I was writing, that was in the back of my head, that's all. I didn't know.
I said, I will have to check on enforcement of these areas. I don't have any clue about contacting these people.
But who do you want to enforce it?
6.
Because there was some talk about whether you wanted a constable to enforce it or whether
Right,
you
but-
wanted law enforcement
I
to
think we
enforce it.
didn't know who could.
I think it's worth at least
Anybody
leaving
want?
constable in there because we've discussed that we may need to visit that at some point, whether we need to, yeah.
So yes, I would say the enforcement is gonna be, because VSP and Windham County kind of rotate, then both of them should be named as enforcement and including constables, so we have
So-
that for future.
Should it say VSP or other law enforcement source, because I know
Sure.
Brattleboro does come down from time
Yeah.
to time for things, so.
Yeah.
I
So
think
if we just
should-
put law enforcement
Yes,
official, maybe not on duty,
yeah, law enforcement official or town constables.
and add constables, okay.
And then there was a question adding the dog officer for daytime dog barking as well as.
Well, that's
night.
part of his ordinance.
part of
That's
anyway.
That's his
that's already in
ordinance,
his
so-
ordinance, so he's good there.
Yeah.
So don't put it in here?
Correct. And so the effective date is good. So essentially what we ended up with was sections 1, 2, and 3, sections 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. And the only change to any of those sections is the 10 to 7, which follows the dog catcher's time,
And
as
adding
well.
a constable.
and adding a constable to the enforcement list. Yes?
That's right, too.
Yes.
Okay. So, does someone want to make a motion to accept this noise ordinance as amended, or do we want to have it rewritten and do it at the next meeting?
Rewritten, do it
Let's have
next
it
meeting.
rewritten and cleaned up.
Okay. So, we have our direction of what we're gonna do. If your cats get loud, Jeff,
They're
I will
sorry.
have the constables come remove them from your property.
I'd like to see him try to catch him.
You can try it.
Okay, public participation agenda items only.
What about this?
What's that?
A letter from Cynthia Hill.
It's,
That's part of correspondence, we'll get there. So seeing none, correspondence, you were right on it. One of the pieces of correspondence came directly to me from Cynthia Hill. She had somebody approach her, a solar company approach her about utilizing or buying a piece of her property to put a solar field on and all the accoutrements to it. Did you ever hear anything
I
from those
called him,
folks?
left a message with the actual gentleman, Chet McLaughlin. I got his voicemail. I have not heard back.
So,
But that was right before the holiday weekend, so.
alright.
think that was
So,
actually the-
Cynthia was just concerned because she knows that we've turned down several solar fields and due to, them wanting to utilize agricultural property to do so, and that's ag property out where she is. So she gave us a heads up that that was being talked about, and it's never come to us, so we're gonna make them aware that we're aware and go from there. What other correspondence do you have?
That was the only one that I had a comment on,
Okay.
actually.
And I stole your comment, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I was just gonna let you know that I reached out.
Anything else for us, town admin report?
The admin report, I do have stuff for that. Our septic has been repaired. Those repairs are complete. We don't have a final bill yet, but the new panel is in, so we got through that without any additional damage, so that was good. As you know by now, garbage and recycling this week is postponed until Friday. So tell your friends, tell your family, spread the
I
word.
did make the announcement and chair remarks in the beginning. as well.
And I talked to Annette Royden, who is one of our assistant health officers. She is officially got her house on the market here in Vernon and is moving to Brattleboro. There is nothing in our town policies that require our assistant health officer or a health officer to be a resident of Vernon. So with your permission, she would like to stay on. She is not in a paid position. She does it free of charge. And
Deal.
she's the backup to Mark Snow.
And she knows her stuff.
And she does know her stuff, and she's still willing to do it if you will let her continue on in that role.
Awesome. Thank you.
And lastly, the town fair is coming up. I do have, for some reason, I only got one beautiful color brochure on the stuff that's going on up in Burlington in October. I would like permission as a town administrator to attend that as an overnight.
So moved.
City's in Burlington.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay.
That's all I have.
All right, so upcoming meetings, next regular meeting is September 18th, followed by a budget meeting on September 19th. Emergency preparedness training is September 7th and 8th. Municipal budgeting and borrowing workshop, September 11th. BCTV annual members meeting, September 20th. Shout out to BCTV. Leadership Summit, October 1st, which we talked about nominating someone. We are sending Chris to that leadership conference with our free ride because no one else wanted to go. Thank you for volunteering and attending. And then, as Michelle just mentioned, the town fair, October 3rd and 4th in Burlington. We are adjourned.